I think sometimes we overlook the little moments, right? Like early on, Dan Hill, who was kind of like the chief retail officer at the beginning of Purple, there was a moment where he was demonstrating how the purple gel could buckle with an egg, which is what, this egg drop test that now Purple is known for. He was demonstrating it on a seat cushion. He would put it in a little plastic bag, sit on it. And that was just a funny, kind of quirky, weird moment. We took that and turned it into a much bigger story. So finding those things that are just a little bit abnormal, that are just a little bit, eye-catching, but real, not just like scroll stopping, TikTok desperation moves. What's like the authentic, unique angle to your product or service? I see a movement toward productization of services, like making the way you transact on services something of the future. I've seen a little bit of venture money on the coast going that way, meaning quick and easy ways to schedule a service, get it taken care of, rather than the process now of calling, waiting for a response back, looking at reviews. Like, I think there's going to be simpler ways to get things done.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Digital Revolution Podcast. I'm your host, Eli Adams. Today's episode is brought to you by FireUsMarketing.com, where SEO solutions pave the way to digital excellence. In today's episode, we're joined by Alex McArthur. Alex is a seasoned marketing executive and most recently the Chief Marketing Officer at Kizzik, the easiest shoe you'll ever put on. Previously holding the same role at Purple, the innovative mattress company, Alex has had an amazing marketing career packed with significant achievements. A Utah Business CXO of the Year and a member of the Google Retail Advisory Council, Alex has spearheaded marketing strategies that have catapulted brands into the spotlight. Notably, he led one of the top 50 Kickstarter campaigns out of more than 400,000 and won a Weeby Award for the most boring film ever, a creative collaboration with Purple and Facebook Creative Shop. His efforts have consistently driven high growth, pushing one organization from startup phase to a 9-figure run rate in just 1 year. His marketing expertise is recognized on prominent platforms including Forbes Inc., TechCrunch, NASDAQ, and in Google and YouTube case studies. Starting his journey in e-commerce back in 1998 with a small computer manufacturer, Alex's career has since spanned thousands of SMBs, Inc. 500s, public companies, and well-known brands, navigating the intricacies of both agency and in-house settings. When he's not crafting approachable brands or leading teams, whom he credits as the best part of his career, Alex enjoys spending time outdoors with his family, hiking, snowshoeing, and traveling. Known for his unique approach to personal networking, Alex does his best to keep his schedules open for lunches to meet new and interesting people. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Eli, so glad to be here. We've known each other for a while. I'm pumped to chat with you today.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too. You and I have known each other since the OrangeSoda days, which, man, has been 13 to 15 years, I guess, since I was there. Long time, right?
Yeah, it has been a long time. Sometimes I forget about OrangeSoda was like one of the best part of my careers, but it feels like a lifetime ago.
It does.
And man, your bio was like a weird flashback on my whole life. Like that's the most in-depth bio I've had. So thank you.
Well, man, you've had a pretty awesome career, and I wanted to make sure and get it all in there because I think it's real important for people to know who you are and your background. And I'm excited to dig into like really who Alex was before that as well, so that, like we mentioned previous to the show, I want people to look at this, and when people look at your bio or go to your LinkedIn, sometimes it can be kind of overwhelming. And if they don't know you personally, they don't know you're approachable, it can be kind of intimidating. And so understanding where you come from and like how you became who you are today, I think makes it really relatable. And I want people to be like, if that guy can do it, I can do it. So I'm real excited to dive into who you are and then get into some of the work history. So tell us about Alex. Where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I moved around quite a bit. I guess I'd consider myself a Southern boy, born in North Carolina, moved to Maryland, Tennessee, back to North Carolina multiple times, lived in Walnut Creek, California for 6 years outside of San Francisco. Ended up moving to Utah my senior year of high school before serving an LDS mission to the Czech Republic. Um, my parents, my mom grew up on a tobacco farm in North Carolina. My dad was, a great family, but the dad was a bit of an alcoholic, struggled to find a path for himself, my dad. So joined the military. on the GI Bill, got an education, ended up becoming a nuclear physicist and kind of changing the course of you know, the lives that my family ended up living based off of, decisions he made. Um, so yeah, have 3 kids, an amazing wife. Um, my kids are getting a little bit older now. You can see my gray hair. I'm 47 now, but have a 21-year-old daughter who's a awesome yoga teacher. Only person that could ever convince me to do yoga, and now I'm all in. 18 or a 19-year-old son that's on a LDS mission in Ecuador, and then a
Nice.
15-year-old son that is amazing, little on the shy side, and recently committed to a YouTube channel, and he's crushing it, like almost 100K subs, making like, the income of an adult in our state here in Utah, right? I'm
Yeah.
just blown away by how hard he's worked. So he edits a video every day, uploads it, and yeah, that's a quick glimpse into my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. On your boy, last time we talked, you told me about that, and so I'm one of those 100,000 subs.
Oh, no
And
way, man. That's awesome.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. And so me and my kids play gorilla tag a lot, and I was telling my 12-year-old about it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I want to start a channel like that. That's pretty awesome." So she follows him, and she likes watching his videos as well. So he's doing some pretty cool things.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's funny to watch, like, he has no help, and I'm like, "Dude, I've done a lot of marketing, I've gotten YouTube plaques, like, do you want any advice?" And he's like, "No, I got it."
He's
And
got it,
it's
man.
I haven't contributed whatsoever to what he's doing, it's 100% him, and, he's got a little Discord now with all his followers that, like, volunteer to help, so I'm like,
Yeah.
"Man, my 15-year-old son's like a mini CEO, this is so cool to watch."
That's so cool for him. That's exciting. So you moved around a lot. Was that because of your parents' work? Was it because what the military you said was part of it, or why'd you move around so much?
Yeah, my dad was in the military when he was young or younger before I was born. And then, like I said, he became a nuclear physicist, got his PhD at Purdue. We would move around to different states where they had different nuclear plants, and he would come in and advise and consult. Eventually, started a company that patented some products that like cleaned out nuclear uh, reactors. Like it's called a
Mm-hmm.
tritium brush, something that he worked on years and years ago.
Wow.
Um, so we moved around because of his jobs, and in the moment, I kind of hated that, and that impacted my life because I'd get settled in, I'd meet
Mm-hmm.
people, and then we'd move, and in reality, I love that part of my life now because I met a lot of different types of people, I became comfortable with different types of people. When I went to college, like, I met all these friends that had lived in different places ended up in this one spot, or some people from some of these states, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like wherever I go, I have some kind of, you know, personal connection to someone, whether it's the South, East, North or West, whatever, like, I know somebody there, and everywhere I go has a little bit of home element to it or some
Yeah.
familiarity to it. So in the moment, it was one of the worst part of my life. And in hindsight, I love that we moved around a lot.
It's funny how hindsight's 2020 and you can see that, but not when you're in it. When you're in it, you're like, this is the worst. But then you look back and you're like, oh, that was a pivotal moment in my life.
Yeah. And you know, whether positive or negative, most people stay in one area most of their life. And
Mm-hmm.
um, sometimes that doesn't allow for different experiences, right? And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying one way is better than the other, but for me, it really opened up a lot of opportunities and seeing the world from different angles. So yeah, really love how that turned out for me and grateful for all those experiences.
That's awesome. So you're 47. So when you were younger, digital wasn't really around or a big thing. So at what point were you introduced to this crazy digital world that we live in now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I mean, as a kid, I thought I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, like some kind of
Mm,
doctor or something. As I got a little, I mean, my parents had, I can't even remember the name of the computer, like a Tandy or something, Tandy 2000. I can't remember what it was called.
mm,
And I played Minesweeper on there and, liked to experiment and, you know, Alta Vista days, some of the earlier different search engines that existed, I
mhm,
tinkered with. And I think at the time we lived in Tennessee, if I remember correctly. And, uh, you know, I just like to explore and try things, and so I think video games probably caught my eye first.
Mhm.
I wasn't like a heavy gamer, but I like to try different games,
Yeah.
and, I think, video games kinda got me involved in, like, technical digital stuff, and then when I went to college, in, like, '96, I went to, Brigham Young University, um, really quickly learned, I'm like, "I wanna be, a programmer." So
Mm.
from a doctor to a programmer, right? Like, I wanna be a
Mhm.
programmer. So I started out in computer science, and I loved it, but I also realized I didn't wanna be somebody that just sat behind a screen. Like, I like people too much, again, probably because of moving around so much and being forced to meet new people. And so, didn't realize it at the time that marketing would be my thing, but I knew I liked technology and digital stuff,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to just, code. Not that that's bad, just not for me. And so I explored a bunch of different things and ended up doing more like communications, because I felt like in the future that would be the way that digital was most expressed was
Mhm.
through communication. So that
Yeah.
was just an early guess. Um, and then, now years later, never thought I'd be a marketer, never thought I'd sell mattresses online or, help build a shoe company or I never thought I'd be labeled like a consumer marketer. That was like the last thing on my mind.
Yeah.
I thought digital, just like moving around a lot, broadened my horizons. It felt like the digital world would allow you to connect to anything.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's really what caught my eye.
So where do you feel like your first like big break was where you're like, okay, I'm for sure in this. As far as like a job goes, was it like your first job out of college? Was it Orange Soda? Like where was it where you're like, okay, I can see myself doing this long term?
Yeah, I mean, the minute I think I switched, I was working for a software company right out of college called
Mm.
Exactware. You
Mhm.
probably haven't heard of it unless you're from in Utah or maybe New
Yeah.
Jersey. Um, like every insurance claim, like home related loss or home issues or contents of your home, if issues happen there,
Mhm.
that software calculates the loss. So I was there for 4 years, and it was a great company. The people were amazing, but it was so boring. And I started, like, really getting interested in SEO just as a hobby,
Yeah.
and I felt like every week I was buying a new domain, and this is when WordPress, you had to upload the zip file and extract it and do all this stuff. There wasn't all
Mhm.
this one-click install stuff,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of like what I tinkered with at the time was setting up custom little sites and trying to make them all do unique things and get
Mhm.
traffic, um, and so I was tinkering with SEO, and at the time, people used Craigslist, and it wasn't creepy, and, I met this guy on Craigslist who was looking for SEO help for his sunglasses company. His name's
Mm.
Jay Bean. He
Mm.
started a company called, Aha, which was, like, pay per click before Google AdWords, right?
Mhm.
And he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna start a company called OrangeSoda. We're gonna be the first company that does small business internet marketing." I'm like, "Oh, that'd be a blast." And he had 2 co-founders, Jay Bean Chris Finken and Derek Miner, who are 2 of my favorite people,
Mhm.
and I didn't know them at the time, but Jay's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do pay per click for small businesses." "Oh, cool. What about SEO for small businesses?" And so they brought me on, and I quit Exactware within, like, weeks,
Mhm.
um, and started helping, and it's not like Orange Soda had some great exit, but man, you were there. So many
Yeah.
of Utah's most talented marketers went through there, and I think it inspired a lot of people. It inspired me. And so
Yeah.
that was the moment that I got hooked, I think. I was already dabbling, but that was the moment that really just got me falling in love with the digital marketing world. And like, strangely enough, like, even though we're talking digital, I liked the real part of it as well. Like, we did a lot of conferences, and I loved networking with
Mhm.
everybody and learning what other people did. And to this day, like, we're a little more established in our careers, but I still love standing in a trade show booth and just talking to people. Like,
Yeah.
um, to me, that's what life's all about: personal connection. And sometimes it feels very transactional, but, like, I
Mhm.
like the other part of it, networking, seeing what makes people tick, seeing what catches their attention. So, Orange Soda for sure was that moment Jay responded, I had no idea what he'd done in his career, and he on the side, he owned this little sunglasses business, and
Mhm.
I'd go sit in the back of it, and, it was a little retail outlet. He wanted to franchise it, I think, at the
Hmm.
time. I don't think it exists anymore, but, we had fun and had lots of great conversations. Next thing I know, I'm a part of a startup with him. So that for sure was my big break.
I think it was for a lot of people. There was a special energy at Orange Soda, and we have that Orange Soda alumni group on Facebook, and you go through and look through the amount of business owners and CMOs and just people who are doing amazing things, and not just in marketing, like on the the technology side of things, on the product management side of things, on the marketing side of things. Like Orange Soda put out so many successful, amazing people in this valley, and they're all awesome people. Like I don't know, like what you did to hire the right culture of people, but so many people were just humble people ready to learn and just hungry to do something good. So I look at Orange Soda as a pivot point in my career as well. I do remember, speaking of, WordPress, before Orange Soda, I was doing the FileZilla and, all that with WordPress. I had 45
Yeah.
websites at one point, and which I think probably lent towards me getting the job at Orange Soda, because I hadn't had agency work in the past, but the hiring managers were looking for somebody who had experience, and so I had built my own websites. I had a few clients on the side, which I'm so grateful, so grateful. That Orange Soda is actually what took me out of retail management. I'd done it for 8 years before that, and Orange Soda was a big part for me too. So thanks for creating that culture and allowing me to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up that Orange Soda alumni group. So I created that Facebook
Mm,
group, and literally last night, like, the fact Orange Soda's been gone for years, right? It was acquired.
yeah.
They actually took down the site, and I literally approved somebody yesterday to
Oh wow.
join the, and it's like, people still think about it even though it's been gone for years. So,
Hmm.
I know that some of your listeners have probably never heard of Orange Soda, but man, there's just so many cool people that have came out of there. So many great CEOs, VPs of marketing, people that are leading digital for great companies. One person that comes to mind is AJ Wilcox, who's like viewed as the LinkedIn guy, right? Like the
Yeah.
LinkedIn marketer guy. And, he's somebody I love and hike with. And there's just a lot of people that have made a significant impact, from Qualtrics to Divi to many,
Yep.
many great companies.
Yeah. Agreed. So what are you currently working on now?
Yeah, so, I think in the beginning in the bio, you mentioned Purple Mattress, most recently Kizzik. I literally just exited,
Hmm.
Kizzik about a month and a half ago, and told myself I'd give myself a minute to, like, breathe, which I'm not good at, and rest and relax for a minute. And then I know, like, I'm a competitive person, not to, like, beat others, but, like, I like to create things and create jobs for others, and provide a livelihood for myself. So I'm in that moment of exploring opportunities. I've had venture firms reach out and say, "Hey, what's the next consumer idea?" Or, I'm looking at tech platforms. I'm exploring opportunities right now. Have a couple things I'm really excited about, but at the moment, still in exploration mode. My wife and I went to India for 2 weeks. We went to Hawaii for a
Mm,
week, and, did a few things, got the travel bug out of my system, and now I'm kinda
yeah.
buckled back down. And I've been really busy for the last few weeks, meeting with a lot of people, consulting.
Hmm.
Um, haven't picked that next thing just yet, though.
So walk me through that process. I think that's an exciting time to be in your life. So congratulations for getting to this point. But like, walk me through the process of finding the next thing, because you've done it a few times. So, or you left Orange Soda, and then like, what was it that pulled you to Purple, and then you left Purple, and what was it that pulled you to Kizzik? Like, is it just like a gut feeling? Is it like the right people, the right timing, maybe all of the above? What is that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us sacrifice in our decisions. We're like, "Oh, I want money, so I'll do this," even though it's not great, or I don't like the product or service, or the people aren't great, or the culture is complicated. I mean, for the longest time, I was just terrified of providing for my family when I was younger, just terrified,
Yeah.
like, stressed to death about it. I mean, I still go through those moments sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, in the end, I've learned to, like, say, why can't I have it all? Not in a selfish way, just like if you're gonna work, if you're gonna spend all this time doing something, why not, look for a great culture, great people, a great
Yeah.
idea, something that you can market well. So, after Orange Soda, for the 4 years I spent there, had a couple different jobs, consulted a few different places, and I kind of created this pattern of do something I love for a few years in a role, in a job setting, and
Mhm.
then w I just have this bug where I like to create, and I can't be an operator that just sits and turns screws, and once something starts to feel that way, I get really uncomfortable, like,
Mhm.
really uncomfortable, and, I mean, I've quit jobs at that point, and normally like, in this example with Kizzik, Monty and I had been talking about it for a while, and, it was in a great place. We have,
Yeah.
wholesale providers and retail stores opening up, and it's not a household name yet, but it's getting there,
Yeah.
that people have heard of these hands-free shoes. So I created a pattern of, doing something I love for 3 to 4 years, exiting and turning on my consulting hat and taking a handful of deals, um, and typically one of those starts to take off. Like, my hope is all of them take off. I want them all to thrive, but one of those often catches some extra momentum, gets a little extra love. And normally, sometimes I've consulted up to a year.
Mhm.
Normally, I feel like the one that catches fire, like the founder will pull me in really fast and be like, "Hey, this is your thing. I need you to be all in on this." And then they'll
Yeah.
they'll offer some equity or something, and I'll join. So that's kind of how Purple happened. To be honest, like, Purple's at its peak was doing what, 700 million in revenue, and you know 2 months before, I mean months before when we got going early on, I was embarrassed of it. I wasn't telling anybody that I'm selling mattresses online. Like, uh, Kizzik at the beginning, I wasn't telling people about it either, right? And then you kinda
Yeah.
capture that momentum and people wanna be a part. I mean, I asked some of the best people in Utah, like, "Hey, come help me do both of those businesses," and nobody's interested at first, right? Like, it's hard to see that
Mhm.
vision. So to answer your question, like, I'm looking for it all. I'm looking for good people, something that can get momentum, and then something that allows for differentiation. Like, it's hard to sell online, and more people are doing it. And when
Yeah.
you can't find or create differentiation, it's a slog. It doesn't mean you can't make a living.
Yeah.
But Purple, Tony and Terry, great inventors, the guys that invented Purple. Um, they were open to feedback. They allowed us to help build upon the idea, but and then Kizik was just such an amazing opportunity where it's differentiated, and we fought for things to make it better. And but so yeah, I've been very spoiled, and I know that I've been handed a couple of ideas with really great differentiation. So by no means do I think I, made these businesses out of nothing. Like, they were
Mhm.
fantastic ideas that should have won. And unfortunately, a lot of ideas don't win. So to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, we're proud that we turned a great idea into something meaningful.
Yeah.
But it's really sad when you see a great idea and not make it. But yeah, in the end, I want it all. Good culture, good
Yeah.
people, great idea.
Okay, so taking a step back and looking at your resume, you look like you've done some amazing things, and you have done some amazing things. But, like, walk me through some challenges that you've had, or some losses or failures or something in between those wins, maybe to sort of humanize you as well, right? Because, like, looking at your career, it's been amazing, but I'm sure that you've had some failures as well. Do you mind talking about
Oh,
some of those?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, tons of failures. Unfortunately, on LinkedIn, we all just share our wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes just like Instagram, where we only show our best versions of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
No, I've had tons of losses. But I mean, to one thing that I think has helped my career be successful is, and maybe this sounds brash, but like, if I can tell something's not going to work, I move out of it fast. Like, I see people stuck
Mm.
on things for years that are never gonna work. Um, and that's one thing I've just told like, life's too short to not make an impact. And, not that I'm, throwing people to the side, but I'm like, you know when something's not going to work and people are going to waste their lives doing something. And um, I don't know. Let me think of an example. There's a lot of them. So let me think of one. Uh, one was a company called Perch. It was in a town called Ogden here in Utah. Um, they own some great properties, like HomeAdvisor.com, Business.com, kind of a conglomerate of a bunch of web properties, and they recruited me to be VP of marketing there and run
Mhm.
all the growth on all these properties. One site that now is kind of viewed as like a little bit of a shady site, top10reviews.com. He
Mhm.
was making millions and millions of dollars from affiliate links back in the day. And I just I got in there and the culture just wasn't right for me. Not wrong, not bad, just not a
Mhm.
place that moved the way that I moved. Um, and so, I mean, I'm a believer in seeing things through, and both Purple and Kizzik, Purple took from concept to public in 3-4 years. Kizik from concept to, 9-figure meaningful run rate and, shaking up a complicated, category. Footwear is just so competitive. But
Mhm.
I really if I was to pick a job, like, I would have loved to that perch job where they had all these properties and, pull these levers of growth for all these different, businesses with lots of traffic, lots of awareness. Like, that would have been a job, like, I would have picked above those other 2, but it
Mhm.
just wasn't right culturally and, uh, couldn't make the impact that I wanted to, and so I didn't stay long, and, you know, it probably looks bad on a resume to be somewhere for a short period of time, but, like, I knew it wasn't gonna work. One other example, um, a a fairly large bank recruited me to be, like, head of digital and growth,
Mm.
and same thing, I was there for 3 months, just, like, in meeting after meeting, accomplishing absolutely nothing. So this might be bad for me, this podcast of, like, being transparent that, like, there's certain things that just don't work, and then when you find the right environment and everything's clicking, the right people, you can grow, like, amazing things happen. But I guess for me, I've recognized when I feel trapped and, like, we're not accomplishing things. People are just collecting their paycheck, going to the meetings to pretend like they're accomplishing something, but nobody really
Yeah.
cared about the outcome. So when
Mhm.
that's the situation, like, I just can't function or thrive. And, um, earlier in my career, I probably would have been more patient with it when I just needed a paycheck to feed my
Yeah.
kids. As I've had a little more luck come my way, now I can't tolerate it. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate your vulnerability, talking through that. I think more people need to hear that, and sadly, I think there are a lot of companies in Utah as well as the United States that do kind of just get by, right?
Yeah.
And I think all of us have worked at companies who have amazing cultures, and we've worked at companies who have average cultures, and some of the average cultures and lower cultures are billion-dollar companies too, right? So they're doing some things right, but maybe it's just the department or the leader or whatever. And I don't fault you at all. I've done the same thing. I've worked at great companies and had great people. But when you have that gut feeling, like I like long term, this is probably I'm not going to be able to add as much value as I would like to. I don't think there's anything wrong with changing. Now the economy is a little bit different right now, so if people are listening, don't bounce before you find something else,
Yeah, no,
right?
please, I'm not encouraging you to bounce. Like, you always have to do what's best for you at that time. And yeah, by no means am I one of those people that says everyone should be an entrepreneur right now, quit your job. I'm definitely not that
Right.
guy. I love side hustles and building something to value and then making the move.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into the tactical section. So if I'm a business owner out there listening in, and have this amazing guy Alex who's taken multiple companies to the next level, what advice do you have for me to elevate myself online?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, they're trying to make money, they're trying to make a living, and the business gets so um transactional that people forget that what keeps people and customers connected to your business is the story and the emotional ties. And so I really value thinking about the story and and putting more thought than you would think, not just a 15-minute session like, "Oh, we can use this angle, we have this advantage." Like, really thinking about the story. Like Purple, there were 250 online, mattress providers at the time. We weren't the first to market.
Hmm.
Everybody knew Casper. They had raised
Yeah.
hundreds of millions of dollars. In the end, Purple became the most searched for mattress in the world because people remembered the story from Goldilocks to the Sasquatch spot to
Yeah.
all the different. I mean, we made 300 videos in a handful of years. Not that you have to do that much work, but we got known for our stories and why we were different and really amplifying that. Kizzik, we had a clear advantage with, easy step in feature.
Hmm.
And we worked on a lot of demonstration and memorable stories. And it when people know you for your story rather than just an ad of your price point or what you do,
Hmm.
it's just so much more valuable. So if you're gonna do marketing anyway, why not make it memorable? I guess that would
Yeah.
be the point.
So, okay, so if we dive a little bit into the how of that, I think everyone can agree this story is important. But if I'm a dentist or a doctor or chiropractor and I'm listening to this, like, how do I find that unique piece? Maybe walk us through what you did with Purple, on like finding that story and how to be unique. How would I do that, as a business owner?
Yeah, I think sometimes we overlook the little moments, right? Like, um, there were a bunch of people that were a part of this early on. Obviously, Tony and Terry, the founders, and uh, another consultant named Chris Knudsen. But early on, Dan Hill, who was kind of like the chief retail officer at the beginning of Purple, and a great guy. There was a moment where he was demonstrating how the purple gel could buckle with an egg, which is what, this egg drop test that now Purple is known for. He was demonstrating it on a seat cushion. He would put it in a little plastic bag, sit on it. And that was just a funny, kind of quirky, weird moment. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are like, "Oh, that's interesting." But that we took that and turned it into a much, much bigger story. Um, so finding those things that are just a little bit abnormal, that are just a little bit, eye catching, but real, not just like scroll stopping
Yeah.
TikTok desperation moves to like, some jerky movement to like just capture somebody's attention, but what's like the
Hmm.
authentic, unique angle to your product or service? Like a dentist, what is it about the dentist that's interesting? I mean, is he quiet so it's really patient, a really calm, experience?
Hmm.
Is he funny? Does he, he or she have something unique about them? Where are they located? There's always something like. Unfortunately, I can't say there's this one easy way to, like,
Yeah.
mathematically pick out that moment, but I think for you can build that muscle or that skill to find those things and amplify them. Um, so I think it's just having real conversations, like, if you're a marketer for a dentist or for, a small business or any type of company, like, sitting with the right people that control how that company operates and understanding what is it that truly makes it unique? And it's really funny, every company has it. There's no
Hmm.
company that doesn't have something unique about it. They just haven't pinpointed or been brave enough to tell it.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe I shouldn't do this, but like Homey is a real estate company here in Utah, and for years, they wouldn't say they wouldn't, like, challenge real estate agents, and they'd called me and consulted with me a few times. I'm like, "Why aren't you owning what you really are?" And once they finally
Hmm.
did it, they had some momentum, like,
Yeah.
why don't businesses, just own the truth of what they are or really lean into something that makes them unique or have personality. So there's no easy way to, there's no tool that you can click a button and say, here's our thing,
Hmm.
but you do have to own something. And every business has some unique attributes to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times, business, if you can't figure it out as a business owner, ask your customers, right? If you're a dentist, send out surveys to all your customers and ask what makes us unique. Like I think, talking about dentists, where you're like, if you're the quiet dentist, I don't know that I've ever been to a quiet dentist that didn't ask questions why he's got his
Yeah.
hands in my, right, and turning that into something funny or part of your brand, I think is something that could be done. But I think about our time at Young Living, and we thought, oh, we had this, this great idea to do something amazing, and we'd send out a survey and find out like 1% of the people think it's cool. Everyone else would never use that, and so we would use those surveys and, focus groups to find what people would use to find how to brand ourselves a little bit differently, and, come up with the next unique thing to do in marketing at Young Living. So, yeah, super valuable insights. Find that one unique piece. Ask your customers to, if you don't know what it is, ask your customers what it is. They might be able to help you find that as well. Any other tactical advice you'd offer up to these business owners?
Yeah, I mean, the smaller they are, the more I encourage people to like, again, if it's just a local dentist in a small town, like, you can't do it all. You can't be on all the platforms, advertising everywhere. There's a limited budget. Own something, kind of the same idea, like, be great on TikTok, be great on Instagram, commit to something, and having an audience somewhere is better than, useless, uncared about content everywhere. So
Yeah.
on the small business side, I think just picking something and sticking with it goes a long way. What else? Another thing I shoot for, and I think even small businesses can do this. Um, I believe if I'm gonna do the marketing for a business, and if I want to grow that business, why not set the goal of you can't do this with every piece of content that you create, but why not shoot for the category killer spot? Like, with Purple, we wanted to make the most memorable, mattress ad ever. With Kizzik, we tried to do the same. It's hard. I mean, you got Nike, you got
Yeah.
some really powerful brands that clearly we didn't accomplish that at Kizzik yet, but we did break through in many ways. So when
Yeah.
I'm creating at least yearly, we would take a swing at trying to make the most memorable piece of content in that category. And you can do it on the small businesses can shoot for that too. Doesn't mean they will win that, but
Sure.
making something like a category defining, setting that as a goal puts you in a position to, like, really broaden the upside of what you're doing. And again, that can be a UGC spot. It doesn't have to be a highly produced, expensive spot. So that's another goal that I like to shoot
Yeah.
for is just creating a category defining ad, not just one that, because so many people are like, "Oh, we can't do that. We're just this." Like, no, you're on the internet. The internet has access to everyone.
Yeah.
You might be shocked, like, who comes in if you make the right piece of content.
I think that future proofs you as well from a small business standpoint. If you're, again, going back to dentist, if you're a dentist and you're the only one on the street right now and you shoot for the stars, it's going to set you apart 5 to 10 years from now when there are 15 other dentists on that street because you've already established that, that brand and going for that category defining ad. Where do you see the future going in the marketing space?
We all talk about polarization, like, politically and all that stuff. I see it happening digitally too, where we want simplicity on one hand, but we want connection on the other hand. And a lot of how simplicity is solved is marketplaces and Ubers and DoorDashes and, you know, those marketplaces make things super simple and very, very user friendly, but they leave you stuck at home and, clicking a button to do something where you used to walk and
Yeah.
pay a cashier and then people are craving connection on this other side. So I'm also seeing a lot of great regional or local, solutions pop up that aren't just the one category defining solution that everybody uses globally. So I think you can win either way. You can go big and create this user experience. You can do this local connected thing. I think in the future, some people are gonna figure out ways to combine those 2 things and make something with a soul that accomplishes, like Amazon. I love it, so quick, I can transact here on that user-friendly side, but, like,
Yeah.
there's nothing real about it, and sometimes I miss going in the store and talking to somebody and having that connection and trying to give a really bad dad joke to the cashier, right? Like, those moments, like, and we need to function, but we need connection, and I
Yeah.
just see all the solutions out there getting more and more polarized that way, and, again, to try to have that big idea, I'd love to think of things in the future that can do a little bit of both,
Combine
or you
both.
can lean in really hard one way or the other and see success. So there's a lot of different ways to win now. So I see more and more people craving real connection. We keep trying to solve it through social media, and it's just not fulfilling
Hmm.
people. It's causing more depression, more anxiety. Sorry to rant, but, like,
No, you're
we
fine.
all see it. And being a parent, we all see it. So, I think that connection is is one thing that I think people are going to try to solve in different ways digitally, but in the end, it probably needs to be more meetups and personal things that happen. Um, what else? I think there's going to be a movement. Again, everybody talks about products and B2B stuff. I
Mhm.
think there's going to be a movement. If you look in venture, you know, consumer funding has slowed a little bit. B2B, even the biggest of big companies are laying off people right now, which is scary. I
Yeah.
see a movement towards productization of services, like making the way you transact on services uh, something of the future. I've seen a little bit of venture money on the coasts, New York and LA,
Mhm.
going that way, meaning quick and easy ways to schedule a service, get it taken care of rather than the process now of, um, calling, waiting for a response back. It's just,
Yeah.
looking at reviews. Like, I think there's going to be simpler ways to get things done in the
Mhm.
future. I see a lot going that way. So that's something I'm keeping my eye on as well.
Yeah, I think the future is exciting and scary at the same time.
Yep.
Back on that first note, I know that all of us who were old enough to go through COVID, I like my kids went through it, but I don't know that they'll remember it the way that we remembered it. Um, we are craving that human touch, right?
Mm.
And being an entrepreneur working from home, I have to have lunches with people and grown-ups and adults, and I have to go to the conferences to feel that energy. And I'm hoping that there's a way that I can convince my kids to do the same thing because they're such homebodies right now. And they're too young to be on social media, but they love playing their video games and doing everything else that is not interactive with humans. And so I do hope that somebody comes up with some solution, or as a parent, I guess I'm just going to have to kick them out and say, go, go talk to people. That's on me, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so Alex, at the end of every podcast, I ask a couple different questions. And so the first one is, if you could go back to your younger self and give advice, what would that be?
Oh man, I'll have to throw a caveat into this because um, stress has become such a bad word to people. I actually think stress has a purpose and inspires, pushes us to do new things and change things that aren't going well. But I if I could look back, I let stress get the best of me far too often. I mean, it never stopped me from working or accomplishing things, but it took over my mind more than once. And if I was to take back the hours that I spent stressing and just did things and tried to move forward, I think I would have accomplished more and been happier. So finding a happier, not happier, finding a more positive relationship with stress
Yeah.
is something. If I could look back in my career and change, like literally, I think I mentioned this earlier on the podcast, but I let the idea of providing for a family really stress me out. I knew I always wanted to be a
Hmm.
dad, wanted to, raise kids and have those
Yeah.
experiences, and be a part of a family. But that just really, really scared me to. And now, as home prices are going up and inflation is, I get that that's even scarier. I can promise anybody
Hmm.
listening, like, you're gonna make it, you're gonna
Yeah.
survive. Uh, you know, you'll have opportunities to do different things. There's always ways to take care of yourself, and for a vast, vast majority of people, I know there's the few that are homeless or other things, and I hope we as a community come together and, solve those things better than we have to date. But look at how many people make it. Uh,
Yeah.
so many people make it. Like, you're gonna make it. Um, and the stress doesn't benefit anyone, yourself, the other parts of your family, I really let that get the best of me more than once. So, like, if I could look back, I would roll with, the bad moments better than I did, and not let myself stay up all night or, you know, get cold sores. And I mean, even during some of my better times, Purple, as
Hmm.
it was going public, I was throwing up in the bathroom as we're doing our forecast right before we had to, like, put out public numbers. And, like,
Yeah.
we could have just joked about those moments, like, "Isn't it crazy we're making this decision that's gonna affect millions of stock, shareholders?" And, in the end, you can only do the best you can do, and that extra stress, obviously take big decisions seriously, but it doesn't benefit anyone, especially yourself, to like let that get the best of you. Hopefully
So
that made sense.
powerful. Yeah, that's so powerful. I was a part of an MLM called Primerica 15 years ago, and the original owner, his name was Art Williams before he sold it to Citigroup, and then they bought themselves from Citigroup and went public. And they're very successful MLM right now. Um, and Art Williams, when he spoke, one thing he always said that still stuck with me to this day is all you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough.
Yeah.
And I love that. So same thing that you're saying is roll with the punches. Don't let it stress you out. I've had lots of sleepless nights with past jobs, being stressed out, and being an entrepreneur, getting things rolling here has been stressful. So I'm going to take that advice for myself as well. And maybe cherish those moments so I can look back on them with a lighter heart than some of the past things that maybe I regret. What books, podcasts, or leaders currently inspire you?
Um, um, I think like many people in the business world, I love the Acquired podcast. That Costco uh, episode was like one of the best things I've ever heard.
Hmm.
Um, a couple books that one of them sounds super nerdy. Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order sounds so like it's not political at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just thinking about the macroeconomics of change and like
Yeah.
post COVID, things are very different. The world's changing
Yeah.
in many different ways. And that book by Ray Dalio like got me thinking about how to like think about what happens due to specific changes.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying I know the answers, but it really creates a lot of thought-provoking ideas. So that's one I'd challenge people to read. The Confidence Gap for me has been a life changer. Um, like most people, I struggle with imposter syndrome. We all do.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple lucky wins, stacked up against each other, and so people are always like, "Hey, can you do that for me?" And sometimes it gets to me where I'm like, "Man, like everyone, I want personal connection. And yes, I'd
Yeah.
love to help your business, but like, I don't want to feel like you can just turn a switch and I can hand you a win, right? Like we have to figure this out together. And so Confidence Gap for me, that book has been awesome.
Well, Alex, I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on the podcast. I know you're super busy trying to figure out your next step and with family stuff going on. So thanks so much for taking the time. How can people get in touch with you if they want to?
LinkedIn is great. I'm, communicate with a lot of people through there. My email address is alexmcarthur@gmail. You can reach out to me there. I love to connect. Like Eli mentioned at the beginning, I have lunch and breakfast almost every day with somebody new.
Hmm.
And then I take some of the weirdest speaking opportunities ever. I just got a guy called me this week to come speak in New York at a really small Amazon marketing group, and I spoke in Israel not long ago. Like I love to meet other people. So through email, through LinkedIn, through local events, I'm all ears to any of those.
Okay, I'll put your LinkedIn and your email up on the screen for YouTube and in the show notes for anybody listening so they can get in touch with you. But thanks again for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Eli.
And everyone who's listening, we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks so much for listening to the episode today. Listen, I know how valuable an hour of your time can be, and for you to take that busy time out of your day and spend it with us, it really means a lot. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking and subscribing on whatever platform you're on. And don't forget to leave a comment. Tell us what you thought about the interview. Ask us questions. Let us know what other digital topics you'd like to hear about in the future. We're here to add value to your life and elevate your digital presence online. If you'd like some help doing that, reach out to me at fireusmarketing.com. See you on the next one.